Why women feel safe around some men over 50, and why others still lose them. Have you ever done everything right and still lost her? You were kind. You were calm. You never raised your voice. You paid the bills. You fixed the faucet. You remembered her birthday. You thought this is what a good man does. And yet, she grew distant. She laughed less. She started looking at you like a roommate, not a partner. And one day, she looked at you with those tired eyes and said, "I just don't feel safe with you anymore." Those words broke something in you. Because you weren't dangerous, you weren't reckless, you weren't absent. In fact, you were always there. But maybe that was the problem. You were there, but you weren't really with her. That was me. I was 55, widowed for 3 years after losing my wife to cancer. When I met someone new, a woman with a gentle smile and soft hands, I thought life had given me a second chance. She made me laugh again. She brought warmth back into the house, but a few months in, the air changed. She didn't text back as fast. She stopped waiting up for me at night, and during one quiet evening while I was pouring us tea, she whispered, "I don't feel emotionally safe." It shook me, because I always thought emotional safety meant protection from harm. But for her it meant something else, being seen, being felt, being understood. And that's when I realized, what women crave isn't just kindness, it's presence. It's emotional resonance. It's the invisible way some men hold space without saying a word. Carl Jung once said that what we don't make conscious becomes our fate. And for many men, over 50, that unconscious silence becomes the very thing that pushes love away. When doing less means loving. A few weeks after that night, the night she told me she didn't feel emotionally safe, I found myself sitting on a park bench, alone, watching couples walk by, holding hands, laughing. No words, just connected. I started to wonder, what do these men have that I don't? They didn't look wealthier. They weren't younger. They weren't saying anything grand or poetic. But there was something in their presence, a stillness. Like they weren't trying to fix, impress, or control the moment. They were just there. Fully, calmly, and that's when it clicked. Most of my life I thought being a good man meant taking action, solving problems, giving answers, doing things. But no one ever taught me how to simply be, to be emotionally present, to sit in silence with a woman's pain without trying to fix it, to look her in the eye and let her know, without saying a word, that she's not alone. When my late wife cried, I used to hand her tissues, offer solutions, or distract her with humor, but I never asked, "Do you need me to fix this, or just feel it with you?" And that's what I failed to give the woman who came after. I gave her comfort, I gave her stability, but I didn't give her presence. Because deep down, I didn't even know how to offer that to myself. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of us we suppress. For me, that shadow was stillness, vulnerability, emotional openness. I was always in motion, always doing, always distracting. But women, especially the kind who've been through life, they can feel the difference. They know when a man is with them versus just next to them. Presence isn't about perfection. It's about staying. Staying. With her sadness, staying when she pulls away, staying without turning cold or shutting down. And presence isn't loud. It doesn't chase. It doesn't perform. It invites. It says, "I see you. I'm not going anywhere. And you don't need to be anyone else right now." That's what emotional safety feels like to a woman. Not just that you won't hurt her, but that she can fall apart in front of you, and you won't flinch. So no, you don't need to do more to make a woman feel safe. You need to be more present, still, grounded, like a calm river she can lean beside, knowing it won't flood or dry up when she opens her heart. Two, she notices what you don't say. It was a small moment. We were at a backyard gathering, one of those low-key Sunday things, lawn chairs, paper plates, quiet jazz playing from someone's old Bluetooth speaker. The sun was going down, the air smelled like grilled corn and fresh-cut grass, and there she was, not the loudest in the group, not telling stories or trying to impress anyone, just sitting beside me, listening, laughing at the right times. Her hand resting gently on my knee. I didn't think much of it at first, until she leaned in, barely audible, and said, "You don't even realize this, do you? The way you rest your hand here makes me feel safe." It caught me off guard. I wasn't even conscious of what I was doing, but to her, that light, steady touch told her something words never could, that I wasn't just physically there. I was anchored, not rushing, not reaching for my phone, not checking out mentally, fully here with her, in the now. That's when I began to notice safety for women isn't about grand gestures. It's in the micro moments, the small, almost invisible things, like how you keep eye contact when she talks about something that matters to her, how you don't interrupt even when you disagree, how your body language doesn't shift when she gets emotional, or messy or uncertain. It's the way you reach for her hand without needing a reason, the way you look at her across the dinner table and smile, not because she said something funny, but because she exists. I used to think women wanted words, big, poetic, well-timed speeches, but what I've learned, especially as I've gotten older, is this. What she craves is felt attention, not performance, not promises, just presence, delivered through the everyday choices you make without even realizing it. And here's the micro-insight I wish someone told me when I was younger. Women don't feel safe because you say they are. They feel safe because your silence doesn't feel like absence. That's a subtle but life-changing difference. A man can be quiet and make her feel invisible, or he can be quiet and make her feel seen, completely, deeply, without question. You don't need to touch her to make her feel held. You don't need to speak to make her feel heard, but you do need to feel her. Feel the way her energy shifts when something's off. Feel the way she curls her fingers tighter when she's anxious. Feel the way her voice softens when she's trying to open up. And the only way you can feel those things is if you slow down long enough to notice. Because emotional safety doesn't come from doing more. It comes from noticing more. 3, she can't feel you. Until you do. It wasn't until I sat alone, weeks after she left, that I finally asked the question I'd been avoiding all my life. What part of myself have I been running from? Carl Jung called it the shadow. The unconscious parts of our personality that we suppress, deny, or ignore. For many men over 50, that shadow often holds our deepest fears. Fear of not being needed, fear of emotional exposure, fear of being seen, and not measuring up. Growing up, I was taught to be strong, not strong in a grounded way, but strong as in silent, unshaken. Man up and move on. So when women in my life got emotional, I quietly backed away. Not out of cruelty, but confusion. Didn't know how to hold someone else's pain, because I'd never allowed myself to hold my own. But emotional safety starts there, not with them, but with us. If a man can't sit with his own sadness, how can he possibly sit with hers? If we flinch at our own vulnerability, how can we be a safe place for hers? I began to do something I had never done before. I sat in silence and let myself feel. Not just the heartbreak of losing her, but the grief I'd carried for years. The grief of losing my wife to cancer, but pretending I was okay. The regret of working too much and missing my daughter's recitals. The ache of walking through life on autopilot, thinking I was doing the right thing, while emotionally checking out. And as I did this work, as I turned toward my shadow, something unexpected happened. I softened. Not in a weak way, not in a passive way, but in a way that made me available again, to myself, to my emotions, to intimacy. You see, presence isn't something you fake, it's something that naturally flows from a man who has made peace with his own darkness. When a woman feels that in you, When she senses that you are no longer fighting your inner storms, she begins to trust you. Because now, she knows you won't run from hers. That's the transformation Jung pointed to, not becoming someone else, but finally becoming whole, by welcoming the parts of you that used to scare you. And when you do, you walk into a room, and people feel it. You speak less, but your presence says more. You don't chase love, you attract safety. Because emotional safety doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being real, being human, being whole. And if you've lost love because you couldn't offer that before, it's never too late, but you have to start inside, not by asking how to make her feel safe, but by asking, can I sit with myself long enough to make peace with the man I've become? That's where it begins, and often that's where she'll meet you, once you've returned to yourself. If this message spoke to something deep in you, if you've ever laid awake at night wondering what went wrong, even though you gave her everything you knew how to give, if you've ever been the man who stayed faithful, loyal, steady, and still heard her say, I just don't feel anything anymore, then you're not alone. There are thousands of us, men who did what we thought was right, but never learned how to be emotionally present, because no one ever showed us how. But here's the good news. It's not too late. Not too late to reconnect. Not too late to feel again. Not too late to become the man who can truly hold space for himself and for someone else. So if this video helped you see something you hadn't seen before, share it with another man, maybe your brother, your best friend, your past self. Let's stop suffering in silence. Let's help each other feel again. Because healing doesn't happen alone. And comment below if you've ever been that man, the one who gave everything, and still lost her. Your story matters, and someone else might need to read it today. When I look back now, I realize something no one ever taught me. Emotional safety is the most seductive thing there is. It's not the car you drive, not how much money you make, not how strong your handshake is. It's whether she feels like she can exhale next to you, whether your silence makes her feel alone or held, whether she can show you her softest, most unfiltered self and know you won't flinch. For decades, we were taught to be providers, protectors, doers, but the men who truly make women feel safe, they've done the deeper work. They've sat with their own shadows. They've learned to listen, not just with their ears, but with their presence. And when you reach that place, something shifts. You stop chasing love, and love begins to feel safe coming toward you. So wherever you are in life, whether you're healing from heartbreak or hoping to love again, remember this. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to become someone fully present, because in a world full of men trying to prove themselves, the rarest, most irresistible kind is the one who simply knows how to be there. No armor, no noise, just presence. And that's when she knows she can finally stay.